On today's show, we'll answer the question, what other parcels did you consider?
Hey everybody, my name is Eric Muss-Barnes.
And I'm Kate Bergeron. Welcome to the latest episode of Luthorville.
Well, as for the other parcels I considered, I found a really great 7-acre plot in Los Angeles. It was much closer to a paved road, had really spectacular views. It was overlooking Saddleback Butte, which was a state park, and it was right near the Department of Public Works, but it was more expensive, and I don't know, I just didn't get a good vibe from the place. It just didn't feel ideal. Ah, there's a stick right here. I bet this is the marker. I bet this is the property marker. Yep. That it is. Okay. So I got a little bit of a creek that would be right next to the property, not quite on it. All right, this right here, once again, is the northeastern corner of the property. Wow. Here's what it looks like behind me. This is what it would look like to the south. And this right here is looking into the property, so pretty much everything that you see up until that, the second horizon line. This was the very first piece of land that I ever looked at when considering places for Luthorville. Now, it seems like it's pretty cool, isolated, really, really beautiful, but unfortunately it was just a little too close to the main road, and it did seem to me like the sort of place that would eventually be developed, maybe within a short period of time. I could say within 10 years I could easily see a number of houses and whatnot out here. So this wasn't quite the kind of place that I was looking for.
Well, then there was the location near the Indian Museum, another gorgeous location, not far from the road, high above the floodplain, but that had a whole different set of problems. It was still kind of expensive, smaller lot, and there was a ton of graffiti nearby. Yeah. Strange to see graffiti out in the desert, but it just goes to show that it was a little too close to some criminal elements. Not to mention it was on a rather steep incline, probably too steep to build on. Yeah. Also, there were boulders in the park above the property. Yeah. One major earthquake and there could be an Oldsmobile-sized rock in the living room. Yeah, that wouldn't be fun. Yeah. Here is the vandalism that Kate was speaking of. You can see all this graffiti and spray paint all over the rocks. Really disappointing. This was not on the property, but right over that horizon, maybe by about 100 feet, is where the property was located. And I just didn't want something that was so close to a place where clearly people were hanging out and doing things they shouldn't be doing. So this is the northeastern corner of the other piece of property that I considered. Now that fence on the right and this fence on the left, those are the borders of the state park. So basically everything that you see here in between the fence, down that fence line about, 300 feet, and then down the other fence line probably a good 900 feet, that was the property. As you can see, it's completely gorgeous. You have this amazing view, and looking back up this way over that railing, you can see some of the rocks. And this is an incredible view across the floodplain. This is in Los Angeles County, and basically, as I was pointing out there, everything to the right of that fence, or the left of that fence rather, is the property. And this, what we're looking at, is the state park land, and those are the boulders that I was worried about that could come potentially tumbling down this hill. As you can see, there's a heck of a lot of boulders, and that's a pretty steep hill. And the steepness of the hill, the location of the boulders, all of that combined together made me really concerned that this probably wasn't the most ideal place to try to build a house, because it could probably be really expensive to try to flatten out this land. Now, this is another view of the same land. This is the opposite corner. This is the southeast corner. And once again, everything that we're looking at here, and I'm pointing out up in that corner right by that Joshua tree, just beyond it, that's where the first set of footage was. That's where we started, where that yellow pole was at. And right along that way, along that mountain ridge, that's where the fence was on the right-hand side of the screen. So here you can kind of get a better idea of just how steep the hill actually was. And yeah, it's really not conducive to build upon. It's really sandy as well. You can see this kind of dirt ATV track that's coming through here. It'd be very difficult to be riding my motorcycle up here on top of the mountain to the house if the house was built in this area. And even this, it doesn't quite show how steep it was. One of the things that I really love about Luthorville and the lay of the land is that it has so much character to it. There's so much variety in it.
Look at these rocks back here. See those mountains? Beautiful.
And there are so many parcels of land out in the desert that are just flat, featureless. They don't have anything. And that was really not what I wanted. It was really important to me to have something that had rock formations and little gulches.
Character. You were looking for character.
Absolutely. So there were a few parcels that were closer to Los Angeles and even cost a little bit less money for the same quantity of land, but none of them had any character. They were always pretty boring. So that was the thing that I really loved about this and what made it stand out from everything else.
I think you did good.
Thank you.
I think you did real good.
I like to think so too. And finally, of course, we have Luthorville itself. This is the rock formation that is on my property. I own most of what you see right here, stretching pretty far towards the horizon, hundreds of feet, about 600 feet out that way, about 600 feet down this way. I also happen to own all those abandoned tires. Yes, unfortunately, those were left there by who knows who, hoodlums and ruffians of some sort, trashing up the land, so I have to get rid of those eventually. But all of this is mine. This is Luthorville. So I looked at countless places on the internet, but I only visited 3 locations in person. Once I found Luthorville, I just knew it was the right spot. You know, this was everything I wanted and hoped for. Even more elaborate rock formations would have been wonderful, but you know, most places like that, they tend to already be national parks.
Right.
It's next to impossible to find really intricate desert land for a reasonable price.
You did pretty good, though.
I like to think so.
Luthorville is an educational series inspiring kids and adults to become excited about innovations in science and technology by documenting the design and construction of a Mojave Desert homestead called Galatea Meridian. Witness the crazy story of how Rarick Muss-Barnes, an unemployed computer geek and struggling novelist, risks homelessness by spending most of his life savings to build an off-grid dream house in the middle of nowhere. Having purchased vast acres of the Old West, can Rarick find a stable job and create his home before his money runs out? Take a journey where fortitude and a pioneering spirit continue to forge the American dream on the romantic landscape of the American frontier.
Thank you for watching this episode of Luthorville.
Please make sure to share the video with your friends' family.
And remember, if your ambitions don't scare you,
Then they're not big enough.
Met on the Carolinian heading south from D.C. Says he's got himself had picked out a seat